So a massive warm welcome back to the show. We last spoke 5 years ago, but can you remind everyone listening with a little about who you are and what you do?
Well, first, Neil, thank you again for having me on the show. Excited to talk to you again after 5 years. A bit of myself. So I'm a serial software entrepreneur, built a technology business before that went public, was acquired for more than $6 billion. And then in January 2020, right before we spoke, I was starting this new mission-driven company called Oyster, that is a global employment platform on a mission to reverse brain drain, reduce wealth inequality by democratizing access to global job opportunities. I am originally from Lebanon. I lived the last 25 years in the UK, the US, and Europe. And I relocated to the island of Cyprus 4 years ago. And why? Because I have a team that is fully distributed around the world. And so where you want to put the CEO of the most remote company on earth, you have to put them in a remote island, right? And on the beach somewhere. So I'm happy with that.
I bet you are. And as I said, it's been nearly 5 years since we last spoke. So much has changed. I think last time we spoke, we were in the middle of a global pandemic and we restricted where we could and couldn't go. Then came working from home at scale, hybrid working, the rise of AI over the last 3 years. So how has the world of work evolved in ways that you expected and also in ways that maybe you didn't expect too? What's happened in the last 5 years?
Well, I think this has been a very turbulent time in terms of the world of work. As you mentioned, there was this pandemic that awakened people that there's more to work than just commuting to the office. People start awakening about, I want to work in the right culture. I want to make work for me. I want to have freedom and flexibility. I want to care about why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want to be purposeful. I think that's kind of the first transformation that happened during the pandemic and post the pandemic. And then we had this economical crisis that's, we're still living in a volatile macroeconomic world. And that had an impact on how we work because suddenly when you go through these phases of low economic growth, the power shifts again from employees to employers. So suddenly you had this, reversing that trend that was very positive for humans at work, which is flexibility and freedom of working from anywhere. Because suddenly now leaders in these organizations saw this as an opportunity to exert more control over their workforce. But even if that happened, people have seen the power of flexible and distributed work. And that led to a series of increasing level of disengagement in the workforce. And, last but not least, AI came, which is and continue to transform how we work, make work more creative, more productive, shifting roles and responsibilities, increasing the output per employee, and increasing the productivity. So all of this is like we are in a very turbulent time in the future of work, but also a very positive time. I think we're moving in the right direction, and that direction is a world where work is more free, more equal, more distributed, more empowered, more fulfilled, more purposeful.
Yeah, completely agree. We do focus on the negative far too often. And here in 2025, remote working, distributed teams, etc., all have become the norm. Organizations are no longer restricted to a geographical region for their talent. They can get that talent from anywhere in the world. And equally, as an employee, we can work anywhere in the world. My son did the digital nomad thing. I think last year was in Europe. The year before, it was in Southeast Asia. There's so much you can do there. And for anyone unfamiliar with Oyster and how you're helping organizations adapt to this new normal, can you explain how the platform helps companies hire and manage talent globally and why that mission remains more relevant than ever today?
Yeah, so before having a platform like Oyster, if a company found an amazing talent, let's say in Indonesia, they found an amazing engineer they want to hire in Indonesia, they had to go through a lot of challenges to do so compliantly. They had to set up an entity, find a lawyer, accountant, payroll provider, benefit provider. And they can do all of that, and still the experience of that employee would be subpar. And suddenly, because of all these obstacles, company would not do this. They prefer to hire within 20-mile radius from their offices. But with Oyster, we solve that problem. We make global hiring as easy as local hiring. And how we do so is we have built this global employment infrastructure. There are Oyster employment entities around the world. And on top of that, we have a software SaaS platform that makes global hiring as easy as local hiring. So you are this HR manager sitting in headquarters in London or New York, and through a few clicks on our platform, and now increasingly AI, you can actually extend a great employment offer, compliant contract for your team in Indonesia. You can give them great benefits. You can process their payment and their payroll in the local currency, all that with few clicks. And you can do that in any country from one platform. So essentially what we're doing, we're making the global employment market as a one market and not fragmented country by country. And that's huge because when you do that, you unlock economical growth. There is this economist called Brian Kaplan from George Mason University. In his book called Open Borders, he argues that if you remove the concept of borders from talent mobility, you can triple the world GDP. And there's a direct impact on inequality in the world, because the reason why emerging economies remain emerging is because their best people, they immigrate to the West, and they get these jobs and they send merely back 5% of their income. But if you get to a place where people can stay in their community, they can stay in their tribes, but have access to higher paying jobs that are fulfilling, they will 100% bring that income back home, and they would grow with that opportunity. And this is the biggest opportunity the world have to reduce inequality and reverse brain drain, is global employment.
And one of the things that put you back on my radar was after reading the announcement of a $59 million Series D round. So tell me more about that round. What drove that round of funding, and how will it, or what will it enable you to do next?
Yeah, so this is our Series D. So we've raised more money before, and this was our round to enable us to reach profitability. So we have, building a global employment platform in 180 countries through software is pretty big investments. Mm-hmm. So we had to build that infrastructure, build the software, build the organization, and we had to go through a phase of moving very quickly in a matter of 6 months to 12 months from growth at all cost to efficient growth, and created a clear path to profitability. So we needed to fill our bank account to make sure we have more than we need to sail safely towards that profitability goal. And it's been an amazing journey, because we went from zero to tens of millions of revenues in a matter of 2-3 years, and went from zero to over $1 billion of market cap in 2 and 3 years, right? So we were going really, really fast, and now we turn that speed into efficiency, and that enabled us to secure funding from one of the top investors in the world, Silver Lake. And we had the participation of strategic investors as well. And what's this going to enable us to do? Not only is it going to enable us to achieve what we need to achieve financially, but also keep innovating, keep creating less friction in the global employment market, keep achieving our mission. Today, 40% of employees on the platform are from emerging economies. That was 30% 2 or 3 years ago. So the more we grow, the more we deliver impact in employment, in remittance to emerging economies, and also in terms of shifting how we work, because Oyster is a role model for companies to embrace this more human-centric, scalable, and distributed future of work. We are the living proof that this model is the future of work. Hyper diverse. We are obviously from over 100 nationalities. We are gender equal across the board, and we have retention and engagement level that is unheard of in the technology sector.
And one of the other things that stood out to me, you've been incredibly busy in the last 5 years and grown so much, and Oyster has become a B Corp-certified unicorn, which is just phenomenal. But looking back at our previous conversation, I know there's so much more to you than that. So can you just tell the listeners a little bit more about the role that purpose plays in how you build your company, and how does that show up in your product, in your culture, and your leadership? Because I remember this clearly being something that you've always been passionate about, right?
That's the reason why I started this company, is to deliver the social and economical impact, reverse brain drain, reduce wealth inequality. And how we do that is being guided by our mission. So first, our strategy and our positioning is guided by the mission. Today, we are a specialist in this cross-border employment use case. Everybody that is we're competing with, our rivals, they're all like broader. They move more horizontally. We are vertical. We are 100% focused on this cross-border employment use case, whether it's line of codes we're building, whether it's software we're shipping, whether it's the way we service and support our customers, is all about this cross-border employment use case and making global hiring as easy as local hiring. So it drives our roadmap, but it also drives our culture. Who we hire, where we hire. We want to empower people and enable people from emerging economies to come and participate in the global economy. It even goes into how much do we pay people? How do we make sure we're paying people fairly and bringing that opportunities to all the corners of the world? And so it's part of the culture. It's like the DNA, the forming DNA of the company. And to be honest, like if we were not a mission-driven company, I don't know how I would have done this as a technology CEO in the last few years. I mean, it's been really tough on the technology sector. So what keeps me going is the fact that I remember why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I remember that I'm doing this for Christina in the Philippines, because she used to commute 7 hours every day to go to work in a contact center. Now she can work from home. She's a mother of 2. She can take care of her children, bring them to school, and have the freedom and the life that is more healthy for her and her family, right? That's what keeps me up in the morning and makes me be more determined to do what I do.
I love that. And you've always been so optimistic, so positive, and I've always spoken about economic mobility and opportunity and focusing on bringing those things to life. So again, for people listening, anything you can share around how Oyster is directly impacting lives in emerging markets? You mentioned a couple there. And also, why does this matter to your vision of the future so much? As you said, you built your company based on this premise, but anything else you can share around that and that vision for the future too?
Yeah, so everybody can say we are a mission-driven company, but you have to measure your impact, right? So we measure our impact every year. We produce our impact report that measure our external impact on the world, whether it's on individuals with the freedom and the flexibility that this way of working bring to their lives. We talk about Christina in the Philippines and how she can take care of her family. We also measure it in terms of increasing level of pay. How much team members on our platform are able to get paid more and more fairly, especially in emerging economies, as they venture into being employed by a company in another country. We also measure the amount of foreign direct investment that we send into countries in the form of salaries and taxes. We send hundreds of millions of dollars every year to emerging economies, and that's been growing faster than the rest of our business. Remember, emerging economies remain emerging because they lack hard currencies. Of course, there's other reasons why, corrupt governments, but essentially, they're not floating with money as we do in the West. They cannot print money at 0% interest rate as government in the West can do to build this infrastructure and the hospitals and all the thing that we are used to in the West. So by actually enabling foreign direct investment to flow into emerging economy, not US aid stuff, right? I mean, real earned money that these people deserve to receive is going to change these communities and these countries. And the goal is to essentially get to a more equal world. And so that's how we measure and why it's important. It's important for our future because I believe two things. I believe mission-driven company are and will be even more successful than not mission-driven companies because they can attract the best investor, they can attract more customers, they can attract the best talent, and create a culture that is more about just making money. It's a just cause that is more than just making money. That's number one. Mission-driven companies are more successful. Secondly, today, more than ever, as the world continues to go through uncertainty, volatility, you can argue there's more conflicts in the world, there's more environmental degradation. That's why it's more essential today than ever to use business, which is the most powerful energy on the planet, to move the world into a better place. And we need more mission-driven entrepreneurs and leaders to be able to take that path. So that's why it's important. It's important because we are on an inflection point. The more you have conflict and degradation and destruction, the more you need a light to be able to balance that. And that's why I'm seeing more and more mission-driven entrepreneurs and leaders tapping into that energy, that power.
And for many business leaders listening, they might assume that global hiring always comes with complex compliance and HR challenges. So for those people listening, what is it that makes Oyster different when it comes to localization, benefits, and supporting distributed teams at scale? Tell me what makes you different and how you're helping business leaders like this.
Yeah, so essentially at the end of the day, like we want them to look at hiring somebody in another country the same way as I look at hiring in the local country, not more complicated, not more risky, safer, better experience to their employees. And they can achieve that because what is unique about Oyster is our specialization. This is the only things we do, the cross-border employment. So we go much deeper, not only into softwareizing the experience, now increasingly with AI, but also providing an expert service that enables the customer to feel more comfortable, and because we want them to hire more people abroad. I mean, that's kind of the end goal of Oyster, is to expand the larger cross-border employment market for the benefit of companies and the benefit of people. So, but above all, what makes us unique and has been increasingly evident in the market is the market need an ethical and a trusted global employment platform. That's not the case from many of the providers out there. They are primarily a professional services organization, growth at all costs focused or bottom line focused. We are human focused first, and that enables us to really take care of the most precious resources of our customers, their people.
And as this is a tech podcast, we've got to mention AI is reshaping knowledge work right now. So how are you at Oyster? How are you adapting to this new wave of tech, which we weren't talking about 5 years ago now, but it's all we're talking about now, especially with the rise of agents, etc. So what are you seeing in how global teams are embracing it? Because we hear a lot about the hype, but I'm curious what you're seeing here and what you're hopeful and positive about.
Look, AI is going to, I said it 10 years ago, I'm going to say it today, is going to transform everything we do. It's going to make work more efficient, more exciting, more creative. It's going to change how we work and be empowered and equipped with this amazing technology that is coming into everybody's hands right now. And at Oyster, in our industry, think about it, global employment, it's a knowledge industry, right? There's different regulation, tax law by country. There's different HR best practices. So we're implementing AI across the board. First is transforming how our customers and their employees interact with our platform, right? We want to make sure that our humans that are available for our customers are available when on the most valuable and sensitive issues in HR, and all the admin is kind of handled by our friend, the AI machines, and that we love them. I want this to be on record because you never know one day what happens. So I want them to know I love you, AI. I'm kidding, but not kidding. So first is we're transforming how we interact with the customer experience, but also internally, like how we manage our business. How do we make decisions? How do we communicate with each other? How do we, essentially we are rethinking our business operating system. Like 90% things I do today as a CEO, I don't want to do them, or I don't need to do them in 5 years, right? The AI will do that for me, and it will do it much better than me. So I can elevate my role even more, and it can be more impactful and focus on the thing that matter, which is not understanding a spreadsheet, but more driving the vision and the values and the culture.
And I think right now many are trying to understand what the future of work will look like. And you're someone right on the front line here. You're in the eye of the storm. You're speaking with people all around the world. So if I was to ask you to look in my virtual crystal ball, how do you see the future of global employment? What does that look like? And what would it take to build that truly borderless workforce that works for everyone? And I think this is such an important vision that we're going to talk about here, because it feels like there's a lot of countries retreating and just looking after themselves kind of approach now. So how do you see that this retreating and going back and delivering a new vision? Yeah. How are you seeing this?
Well, I mean, you mentioned it, there is this force in the world that is trying to reverse globalization. That is essentially last century thinking. That has nothing to do with the reality of our future, but these are powerful forces that are shaping the world. But I believe that there is a balance, always there's a balance. The more you have this force is going to push us towards reducing globalization in certain areas. Let's say tariffs is a good example. You're going to have a balancing force. And that balancing force is going to be about globalization and global employment and collaboration across country, because businesses are learning their lessons now. They cannot and should not depend on one country. Right? They cannot trust their institution. They cannot trust their vision. They cannot trust their politicians. So companies are going to have to diversify their dependency on one country. And while they cannot necessarily diversify their source of material, they can diversify their source of labor. And once a container will be maybe taxed when it moves from a country to another, but an engineer in Nairobi, their outputs can be developed across borders through the internet, right? So that the intellectual property of humans is going to be the currency that's going to be global, and that's going to have a massive effect in how companies hire. They will hire more globally, and platform now like Oyster are making that a reality. You can look at the world as one country.
I think that is a powerful moment to end on. Now, the last time we spoke 5 years ago, we've highlighted how many technological changes have been implemented. The pace is just breathtaking, and we all need to continuously evolve and adapt with the fast-moving pace there. So I've got to ask, as someone that is right in the heart of this space, how do you self-educate? How do you keep up to speed with everything? How do you evolve and adapt? Any tips or advice you could share on that?
Yeah. A few years ago, I was obsessed with reading things, reading books, reading articles. And at some point in the last few years, I realized actually that that was in the way for me for true knowledge. Yeah. And so I stopped all of that. I stopped intentionally trying to read, trying to educate myself. And instead, I started going with the flow of things and listening internally, what's going on in my inner experience as a human being. And that opened up a whole new knowledge world for me in terms of being able to be non-reactive as a leader, becoming safer for myself and for my team members, essentially expanding my consciousness to be this more conscious-driven leader. Because what was in the way is knowledge, is the knowledge that I would gain externally, because we have so much inner knowledge that can come from within. And what we need is to be able to listen to that knowledge, to listen to these messages that are guiding us and supporting us.
Love that. And for anybody listening, wanting to just find out more information about Oyster, where would you like to point them? Anywhere in particular?
We have our website, oysterhr.com, and they can follow me on LinkedIn for all the latest on the future of work and leadership.
Awesome. Well, I'll add links so people can find that nice and easily. And although this is a tech podcast and we focused on technology such as AI, one of the things I always say at the end of every episode is technology works best when it brings people together. And you're living and breathing this, with more than 40% of team members in emerging markets hired through Oyster being able to access for the first time benefits which increase their economic mobility and support their communities. And I think it's less about the technology what we're talking about here, and also this commitment to a greater good, combined with that laser focus on building tools, resources with in-depth localized HR and compliance knowledge. It's just a big melting pot of goodness, let me tell you. So just thank you for coming on here in a time where there's a lot of economic uncertainty and bad news in our news feeds. This is a real breath of fresh air. So thanks for coming back on.
Great to reconnect, Neil. Thank you for having me.
Over to you. Are you exploring ways to build a more globally distributed team? What lessons or challenges are you seeing when hiring across borders? I'd love to hear your experiences and thoughts on this. Please join the conversation. Let me know how your business is adapting to the future of work by emailing me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. But remember, please stay curious, stay open-minded, and keep building something that truly matters. And on that thought, I'm going to walk off into the sunset. But I'll be back again in your podcast feed before you can say Swiss Robinson. Whatever that means. Enough rambling for me. Speak with you all again soon. Bye for now.